Welcome back to More Than Gardening. If you're new here, my name is Sam. I garden here in Michigan Zone 6A, and I grow a preserver's garden, or at least that's kind of what I call it. I grow an abundance of vegetables, and then I preserve everything to enjoy throughout the fall and winter. And one of those staples that I grow every year, and I grow a ton of every year, are cucumbers. That way I can make enough pickles to enjoy all year long until the next gardening season. I feel like you can't beat like a fresh homemade summer pickle. So I want to bring a recipe to you guys today and show you how to do the cucumber sandwich pickles from the makers of Ball Home Canning, from the Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving. This recipe is really good. It's really simple, and if you've never canned before, I think this is like a good starter recipe because it's not very challenging at all, and the canning steps are super easy, so it's just a great one to start with. At this point in the gardening season, full disclosure, I don't have cucumbers fresh from my garden to use in today's video. You guys know, if you've been following my channel, my garden had some major setbacks in May from the cold. Then my cucumbers started getting going, and then the deer found my garden this year and annihilated a lot of them. But I'm thinking by the time this video is live, I'll definitely have cucumbers, but I'm just thinking that if I film this now, by the time it goes live, you should have cucumbers from your garden. So I'm hoping this video is coming to you at a good time once yours are ready so you can use it and make some really great pickles. So I just grabbed some organic ones from the grocery store today to film this, to bring this recipe for you guys. But just know, as soon as my cucumbers come in, I will be making this all summer long. So this recipe is for cucumber sandwich pickles. So I'm gonna start off by cutting off the blossom end and then the other end by about 1/16 of an inch. I will compost these bits. They're great to go back into your garden. And then I'm gonna go in here and start cutting them into about 1/4 inch slices. That way they're the perfect size to go on sandwiches. I find the best pickles are always made from pickling cucumbers. They have like almost like a thicker skin, and they're usually much shorter. They're about this size, and they just hold up a little better in canning versus some of the other cucumber varieties. At least that's what I have found. Regardless of the kind, you're gonna cut them up into about 1/4 inch thick slices, and then just load them all into another bowl. Once you've got all your cucumbers cut up in a bowl, you're just gonna mix together 2 quarts of water. So I've got 1 quart here, another quart here. You're gonna mix that water with 1/2 cup of salt for pickling and canning. And I'm just gonna stir this quickly just so it like all mixes together and the salt dissolves. And then I'm gonna pour it over my pickles, or I'm gonna pour it over my cucumbers because they're not pickles yet. And just like that. Ooh. A little bit of salt at the end. Just mix it in here. And then just stirring this around so everything's coated. I'll show you what this looks like. Maybe I can without spilling. Yeah, I think you could see that. But all of the cucumbers are totally covered in the liquid. And now this is gonna go in the refrigerator for about 2 to 3 hours to just soak. The cucumbers have been soaking for about just a little over 2 hours now. So I'm pulling them from the refrigerator, and I'm just gonna strain them very carefully to not splash myself. And this step, this soaking part of the process, just helps the cucumbers maintain some of their flavor, and it helps with the texture of the pickles overall. So definitely don't skip this step. But I'm going to then rinse them off. That will stay under some cold water, and just get them nice and clean. And once that's done, I can move over to my stovetop and start kind of like the pickling process. In a large saucepan, combine 3 cups of vinegar with 3 cups of water and bring that to a boil. Once it's boiling, you can reduce the heat down to a simmer and add your cucumber slices in and let those simmer for 5 minutes. Once their 5 minutes is up, drain, discard the liquid, and then back in that saucepan, add another 2 cups of vinegar, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed, 1/2 teaspoon of mustard seed, and 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. Let that mixture simmer for 10 minutes, and then add your cucumber slices back in and bring it up to a boil. My cucumbers are boiling now, so I'm ready to start canning. I've had my pint jars in the canner preheating for the last little bit, so I'm just gonna start pulling them out one by one and filling them with our pickles. So I'm just gonna remove this first one, carefully dump out boiling water, and I'm gonna put it on this towel over here. You need to make sure that you've got either a towel or a cutting board in between your hot jar and your counter. And then I'm just gonna take a ladle and put this under it just to be, safe. And I'm just gonna start filling my jars with both the cucumbers and the liquid. And this funnel, this is from the makers of Ball Home Canning. I will link it along with pretty much everything else I'm using in this video because it is a lifesaver. I can't imagine how canning would go without a funnel like this because I would just be spilling absolutely everywhere. I mean, I feel like I'm spilling as is. And I've got a nice tool. So, okay, that looks good for cucumbers. Let's get a little bit more of this liquid in. And it's got to go to a 1/2 inch. And I just eyeball it the first time around. Whoop. I think right there looks good. But then I'm going to take my headspace tool right here, and I'm going to go to the 1/2 inch mark. Oh, that was the wrong mark, and check it. Looks like I need just like the tiniest touch more of liquid. So let's put this back on. I'm gonna check it again, 1/2 inch. Perfect, perfect. I'm going to stick the other end in the jar just to de-oval it to make sure I get any, ooh, spilled a little bit, any of those air pockets out. I'm gonna take a paper towel and just clean off that rim. That way there's nothing on there that could impact me having a good seal. Then I'm taking my new canning lid, my band, and putting it on just to fingertip tight. Right there. I'm gonna take my tongs and look how beautiful that is. These are going to be so delicious. I cannot wait for these. I've been waiting to make pickles since last year when I made my last round. So this is just gonna go straight into the canner. I'm going to pull my second jar, dump out that water, and I'm just gonna repeat that whole process. I'm gonna fill it, I'm going to check headspace, debubble, wipe the rim, put a lid on, put a ring on, and load them up into my canner. I've got all my jars filled and in the canner, and the water is covering the jars by about 1 inch, so I'm gonna throw the lid on, and then this is already pretty much at a boil, but once it comes to a rolling boil, I will start my timer. Pint jars take 10 minutes, so I'm actually gonna take a little, this is at a boil already, so I'm gonna set my timer for 10 minutes. I'm gonna let these go, I'm not gonna mess with it. Once the timer is up, I'm going to take the lid off and I'm going to let the jars sit for 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna unload them out of the canner onto my countertop on a towel again and let them sit overnight. And that's it, that's the whole recipe. Like I said, these jars will sit overnight. Tomorrow morning, I'll check them out. I'll just make sure that the lids are concave. I'll remove the bands and then I'll store them on my shelf. So super simple recipe. Again, I will leave the entire thing in the description of this video, along with the link for everything I'm using and the recipe book. If you like this kind of content or you like canning in general or gardening, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.